Good to see familiar faces and new faces. If you are new here this morning, Brooke leads the youth and family ministry here at Village.
Is Not that youth, children and family.
Children and family. I think I always get that wrong. And her team is Kenyon, who just stepped out, and Kate and Alice on the video, and they all make this all just happen and amazing. And this place is such a cool, loving place to be. So thank you for having me back. I did notice, Brooke, we're not in January, right? I want to make sure.
Right.
Okay.
So we'll start back up in February.
Yes. So we'll take January off. So I'll give you extra stuff today. Just stay with you for a couple months, and then we'll be back in February. What we have been doing here, we started this in 22, was just talking about a topic every month that helps us be better humans, more compassionate, helps us be more compassionate with ourselves, with other people. Last time we talked about perception. That was a really fun discussion. The videos are all out on the Village Pres website that you could go back and watch the months before if you'd like to at any time, or if you want a reminder or reboost. Today, we are talking about something I want you to make as your holiday mission, me included, is the theme of curiosity. So I'm going to give you some new information. Maybe it's new information to you on curiosity today, and I want to hear from you. But there is a tremendous amount of research coming out on the power of staying curious. Carol Dweck was one of the first pioneers of this in the 80s. She wrote on growth mindset, which was the fixed mindset versus a growth mindset. And it's kind of getting a resurgence now in 2023 of research of curiosity really is the key to the continuation of the species. Charles Darwin wrote about how if we're not curious and foraging new paths and our brain atrophies, if we're not foraging new territories, we get stagnant. So this idea of curiosity is part of being human, and I just want us to be really intentional about it today as we talk about it. So the definition of curiosity, let's just start there. A simple, very simple definition is just the desire to know or learn more. So curiosity is more of a spirit than anything else. It is that I have a desire to keep growing, to keep learning, to keep exploring. It might show up in your brain as, I don't have all the answers. I want to know something different than what I already know. It might show up in your brain as, I want to understand a different culture, a different religion, or I want to see something differently than I've seen it my whole life. I want to explore something different than I grew up with, maybe. Curiosity can go into psychology of why is this person behaving the way they are? Why did I just behave the way I did? What's going on with me? It's just asking the questions of life. But to keep it in context today through the holidays, I want us to think about how liberating curiosity can be, how connecting it can be, and how great of a tool it is for trust building. So it's liberating in the fact that I don't have to have it all figured out, right? Just sit with that for a second. Just let your shoulders drop and your jaw relax and think, I don't have to have all the answers. I could wonder, and I could ask questions, and I could ask for help. So curiosity can be liberating in that sense. It's not all on me. I don't have to defend my positions. Right? I could just be curious and hear your position. Feel how liberating that can be if we can just listen and not fight. It's connecting in that curiosity is this phenomenon that sends a message that I love you and want to hear you. I love you and want to know about you. I love you and want to understand you. I see you, I hear you. I'm working at knowing you better. That is felt, that is magnetic, that is energetic. It's a way of making people feel loved to be curious about them. And then trust building. I want to hear what you think. I want to hear about your life. I want to know what you think about this thing I'm considering. That's human connection and trust. I want to share with you what's going on with me. All of that is in the spirit of curiosity that we're going to talk about today. What comes to your minds when you hear curiosity as a holiday mission? What comes into your brain on that? Yes,
I think
Kathy.
about children, and I've got little grandkids, and they're just seeing the Christmas
Yes.
season through their eyes, and just like everything is so new and special and fun
Yes.
and bright and cheery, and just I don't know.
Exactly.
I just see it through kids' eyes, and I think curiosity like says children to me.
It does. The wonder of it all. That's perfect.
There's no cynicism.
Right.
There's just it's here, and I'm here to enjoy it the moment.
In the moment.
Yeah.
Yes. Beautiful. Yeah. What else comes to mind?
As those children age,
Mm-hmm.
even though traditions are amazing, it's sometimes curiosity takes you to a place where you revisit and
Yeah.
think about those traditions to see if maybe something needs to change.
Exactly.
We always went out and cut down a Christmas tree with a dog and a thermos of hot chocolate every year the day after Thanksgiving. And our boys were now both in college
Yeah.
or away from home. And so we finally asked them, is this something you still want to do? And they were like, oh, thank goodness, no. So now we get to go to a tree lot and grab one the day after. And they're all about that. But so
Cute.
that to me is curiosity.
That's beautiful. You asked the question. Is this something? Yeah, you got curious. Beautiful. Perfect example. Perfect example. Yeah.
Feels peaceful.
Yeah.
If everybody's just curious, everything would be a lot more peaceful.
Doesn't it? Yes. Yes. It sure does. Yeah, Anna?
For me, I recently started a new job, and so just learning about, I've been listening to podcasts on various topics that I would have never listened to.
Yeah.
That have been brought up in
Yes.
conversations with donors.
Yeah.
And they've asked me questions, and I answered to the extent I can, but now I'm actually like really, so I've been curious about learning more about what they've asked me about.
That's so cool.
It's been fun.
And one of the things on learning is I was listening to a podcast yesterday on the topic of curiosity to see what the new research was. And they have found that learning improves like 80% if you're curious about the topic, which this makes sense to us because like if you loved a subject in school, you did better in that subject in school, right? But they were also saying that the research showed if you could create a curiosity around something. So like if you're studying something, find where, so they used an example of if you are a watercolorist in a chemistry class, study the chemistry of the paints and the water. Think of paints and water as you're studying chemistry, and all of a sudden chemistry will become easier to you because it's stacking what you're interested in with what you have to do. So I thought that was a really interesting study out of the UK. So to your point, you're absorbing it more because this new job has opened up a whole new lane of curiosity and research for you. And it'll stick differently than if you just listened to that podcast and it wasn't relevant. Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, what else comes to mind with curiosity? Is it hard to be curious, or does it seem easy to be curious? Or hypothetically for other people, who might it be hard for? Yeah, Shelby?
I think it's hard for me when, something's coming from someone out of their mouth, out of their, words that they've written,
Yes.
whatever, and it is very different
Yep.
than my frame of mind, especially like, politics or social
Yeah.
justice, or there's some topics that are a bigger trigger for me. I still, and I mean, I keep striving to get better at this, but that's when I have trouble being curious. I literally inside
Yeah.
can just feel this wall go up
Mm-hmm.
and I know what's best and what would help me and help the situation and help growth
Yep.
is to get curious,
Yep.
stay curious,
Mhm.
and have my mind go in that direction.
Yes.
And that's just tricky for me. So I think some situations it's super easy to be curious. Other
We're gonna get
situations like what I just talked about, for me,
Yep.
is so hard. And
Perfect, yes,
How many people say just in this climate we're living in now?
right.
That, that's needed, and man,
It's so hard.
tough for me too.
I have
And
some
after
tools.
the fact, I can be like, gosh, I just needed to get curious. I needed to
Yes.
tell me more you feel that, instead of just.
I have some tools. We're going to get to those. Because you're not alone. You're not alone, and it's hard. It's really hard. And there's neuroscience behind why it's hard. Anything unfamiliar to our amygdala, the fear center, is dangerous in our brain. That amygdala, it's like a pea size. I think I showed you guys a picture of it one time. It's tiny. And yet, its full-time job is to keep us alive and safe. And so it is in overdrive. So anything that feels threatening, challenging, unfamiliar, dangerous, the alarms are sounding. So we are working against a natural instinct to put a wall up. So if we just all could not, if we didn't have a prefrontal cortex and we just had the amygdala, which is like lizards have, watch a lizard, they're just darting, right? They hear a noise and they go up. That's how we would all be if we didn't have the prefrontal cortex. So we share that with lizards. Our first response is to dart and run and seek shelter. So we can appreciate that. Next time you see a lizard, like you're like, hey, dude, I'm with you. I'm common ground here. I got that. But we, in a society with a prefrontal cortex, override that. So we work at it. But just know, there's nothing wrong with you if your first reaction is to wall up. You're hardwired for that. That's survival. Then we have to do the extra work to stay open to what we're hearing and calm our brain down by this isn't really a threat. I just disagree with this person. Let me ask a good question here. And yes, so we're going to learn some tools today, but yeah, it's brain management. You got it. Okay, before we get to the tools, here's some of the research that I found. Most of this was coming from Harvard or UC Berkeley's Center for the Greater Good. These 6 things have all been clinically studied, which was really interesting. I went down a rabbit hole of research on this, but happier, conclusively less anxiety, and higher dopamine levels in the brain when somebody is curious about something. And the tests are all like, you don't have to answer a question, you have to tell me which question you're most interested in answering, right? Or which question pops out to you on this, which one sparked your curiosity. That's kind of how the research goes. Then they measured dopamine releases and anxiety and blood pressure and sweat glands, and happier was conclusively ranked among one of the top benefits of curiosity. Higher achievement, that goes to that memory thing that Anna mentioned, researching something new, learning. If you're curious about it, you're going to problem solve a lot better. You're not going to shut down when you get frustrated, which leads to greater success. You're more empathetic. Compassion and empathy studies are definitely, the more exposure you have to living in curiosity, the higher your compassion and empathy. And that one seems so obvious if you know a friend, if you've met a friend of a different race, a different culture, different religion, different ethnicity, learning about them and what they believe, you know that increased your compassion and empathy from your life experience with that person. That's also been clinically proven. Attractive, I thought this one was interesting. There's a magnetic quality about curious people. So think about it, if you're at a holiday party and somebody's curious about you and your life, you leave that party going, I really like her. Right? And that was because she asked you a lot of good questions and she cared about your life. You have this magnetic energy about you. People naturally love curious people more. It's in our subconscious. We feel safe. They're interested in me. They seem to like me. They seem to want to hear me more. So if you want fans, be curious. Health improvements, heart, brain, lungs, and muscle tissue, all improved with a sense of curiosity. So muscle tension reduces, deeper oxygen, deeper breathing when you're curious. And you can think about the breathing, I think, from our lived experience, is if I'm defending a position, if I need to know the answer, I go shallow breathing, right? I'm in my kind of fight response, in my fight or flight, and I forget to breathe oftentimes if I'm agitated. If I'm curious, I don't have anything to prove. I can take a deep breath and listen all day because I'm curious about this. So lung health makes sense. Brain health, you get dopamine, serotonin, endorphins, oxytocin, which is the hug hormone. All of those get released when you're curious. It's a loving connection with somebody. Heart, cardiovascular improvements, and then longer life. So this is where Darwin's work, Socrates wrote on this. Socrates said, if we aren't curious, we die. And basically it's, if you're not exploring, you're stagnant. So think about running water. Water that doesn't find new routes pools up and gets really mossy and gross, right? So if you're not changing your thinking, if you're not expanding your horizons, you become stagnant, and that does lessen life expectancy. So there's lots of reasons to work on this, but it's not easy. So let's work on how to stay curious this holiday season. And these are the 4 kind of compartments or buckets we're gonna talk about, and then I'm gonna ask you to speak on these too. So how to stay curious in the holiday season. First of all, what's your purpose this holiday season? I'm gonna be thinking about that because I'm gonna ask you to share that in a second. But so I put mine on here of my purpose is to be the love in the room. So if I'm going to something where I'm anxious or I feel like I'm not as smart as they are, or I reframe that as, Ginger, your job is just to be the love in the room. You don't have to be the expert on it. You don't have to have the answers. You don't have to solve the problems. You just be the love. So think about what your version of that is. A desire to do no harm. This one's interesting because, and I was reminded of John Wesley's words. When I was in seminary, John Wesley's the founder of Methodism, and he had 3 rules for life. Do no harm, do good, stay in love with God. Those were John Wesley's 3 rules for his life. So do no harm, do good, stay in love with God. And do no harm is also the Hippocratic Oath. If you are a physician or have a physician in your family, they took the oath that said do no harm to a patient. Do everything you can to help the patient. And I think as faithful people in the world, do no harm's a really important one for us to be really intentional about, and to think about how my not being curious and open-minded might cause harm. And how my trying to change you or control you or give you advice might cause harm, right? And I've had to kind of learn this as a coach because I want to help people. I want to reduce suffering as quickly as possible. But I have to remember that I might do harm if I push them faster than they're ready to go, if I suggest something they're not ready for yet or is out of their comfort zone. I have to have do no harm playing in my head often. And we're going to talk, I want to know what that means to you guys too. And then the 4th one is remove your sense of judgment. We're going to talk, I've got tools for that one because that's hard work for all of us. And then listen and learn, and just go into your holidays with, I'm going to listen and learn. And that can be such a game changer in how you approach the moment. But all of it is intentionality at its core. Okay, let's talk about these so that you can apply them to your life. What do you want to be? So that idea of the love in the room, I want to be calm, I want to be peaceful, I want to be loving, I want to be full of wonder, I want to have spontaneous joy. What do you want to be this holiday season? Yes, Deanne.
Well, as you were talking about that, I happened to look down at the ring that I had custom made, and it says, shine, be the light.
Perfect. There you go.
Goes along with your
Shine,
question.
be the light. That's what you want to be. So all you have to do when you walk in a room is shine. Doesn't that feel different than prove a point? Or let them know they hurt me, or hold them accountable, or all those things that we get going in our brains. What if I just walk in the room and shine? Yeah. Okay, what else do you want to be?
I want to be present instead of worrying about all the details and
Yes.
this and that, to really just let go of what can be let go of,
Yes.
um,
Perfect.
and just be really present in the moment.
Beautiful, Susan. Be present. Man, that's some of our greatest work as human beings, I think. Because we have a brain that's sounding alarms and thinking 5 years ahead all the time, right? Our brain's doing that to help us, but man, it keeps us from being present. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm just thinking about my time with my kids,
Yeah.
just like think about the holiday season.
Yeah.
And it's being calm instead of just like immediately like yelling at them because they're fighting or.
Good.
And the other thing, I'm sure we all know, but our phones really prevent us from being curious.
Yes.
And so, and I don't let my kids, I know I've shared this, get on their iPads anymore, and they become a lot more curious in so many things. And I realize I need to tell myself that too.
Yes.
So the minute I don't know what to do, I don't start scrolling, I actually like, okay, what am I gonna learn about, what am I gonna focus on? And it's forced me to like change the way I think about what I'm doing.
So good. Yeah, our phones are numbing devices more than anything lately. Like social media is kind of a numbing device, or even games on our phones. Or it's when we're just so spent with being human that we just look at our phones. So if we could realize that's why I'm doing this, and just sit with your eyes closed instead, right? Just it's a habit. It's just a habit. That's right. So yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, Kathy.
I saw on Facebook the other day, and it just really hit me, and it's so simple, but so profound. It said, "Let go or be dragged."
Oh, that's good.
Like, I kind of live, and I kept thinking like of a person being pulled on a horse or something. Like, what are you gonna do? Either you let go or you are dragged.
Let go or
And
be
so
dragged.
Just to remember that and to like live in the moment.
That's so good.
Yeah.
So good. Yeah, just let go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
pack the schedule so full that there are those moments that I can just sit and stare at the tree.
Yes.
You know,
Exactly.
Or if a neighbor walks by, I have time to chat.
Yes.
So,
Perfect.
yeah, I think we really are in a society that feels the need to plan every minute.
Yes.
And say yes to every ask.
Yep.
And when we do that, it doesn't leave space for those spontaneous things that we need to be available for.
Oh, so good. Yeah. Yeah, Judy.
At the Christmas gathering,
Yes.
do you want to be the Mary or the
Martha. That's right. That's right. Yeah. Sit and listen.
I
Yeah.
think you've got to have both.
Yes. Maybe be the Martha up until the party and then be the Mary. Yes.
After the party, go back to
And then be Martha again. I think we're both. Yes. Yes, that's right. Yeah. Beautiful. Think about this. If nothing's coming to you right now, just soak this up a little bit this week and think about being really intentional about what do I want to be. We can't control what everybody else is. We hope, Uncle Frank doesn't do his political thing or whatever happens that you're dreading. Stop thinking about how to control other people and maybe just think, I need a mirror right here in front of me as I say this, but maybe just think about what your intention is. What do I want to be in the room? And then I can just hold space for what everybody else is too. It's really all that we can control. Okay, what does do no harm mean to you? Because this is going to land differently with each one of us, but what does that look like? If you were intentional about do no harm, what comes to mind? Yeah, Anna?
Actually, it comes to me when I get so mad at my kids, sometimes things come out of my mouth
Yes.
that I can't
Yes.
take back.
Yep.
Like the other day, I said to my daughter, Olivia, you always ruin the surprise with presents. Because she would always be like, Dad, it said,
You're right.
and then she immediately started, and I'm like, that was the meanest thing I could say. Because she was giving her dad a gift and she was telling him what it was.
Yeah.
She started bawling, and I'm like, that was such a, it was such a jab that I shouldn't have.
It just
And I
slipped out.
apologized, But it just slipped out because I was like, you always tell someone what the gift is before they open it. And I said, you always ruin it. She's like, you don't always ruin it. I'm like, you're right, that was so mean of me. So I need
Well,
to
you
stop.
repaired it. That's beautiful that you did the repair.
Saying things when I'm angry, like just letting it come out.
Yep. Good humans aren't perfect. Good humans repair. And you repaired it. We slip all the time. The critical thing is that she saw you take responsibility and reflect on it and apologize. That's beautiful. Yeah, so do no harm is that pause, that 2-second pause before I say the thing. Yeah, beautiful. Yeah.
if I'm gonna say something, how are they gonna receive it?
Yes. Perfect. Oh, to pause and think about how are they going to receive it, that's really evolved kind of thinking, because so many of us are in the moment. And again, our amygdalas are going crazy, right? There's a threat in the room. And so it's hard to switch into that prefrontal cortex rational brain. But if you could think, what is this going to do to them? Yeah, that's pretty profound. It's work that we all have to practice, I think, to get there.
And a lot of times, just the thoughts in my head,
Yeah,
I'm just like, no,
yeah.
that wouldn't be a good one.
Yeah. No, that wouldn't be a good one. I love it. That's cute.
The other thing is like text. Like
Yes.
you text someone,
Mhm.
it can be interpreted 5 different ways.
Oh,
And so you have to think like, this is what I meant, but
yes.
the words can come across differently to different people.
Totally.
So texting to me is very difficult.
Yes.
And you get some response back and you're like, what was that about? Like, I wasn't
Yes.
there at all, but they took it differently. So
Yes.
be aware of that.
Oh, that's so good. You just reminded me of another curiosity tool that is to read texts or emails in like 4 different tones. So like my instinct might be like, where are you? If my daughter says that, my instinct might be like, who does she think she is? I'm on my way. And she's so entitled, right? But if I read it like, where are you, Mom? That's totally different, right? Or like, where are you? Like, or haha, where are you? Like if you change the tone of that, it could be completely different. But if I don't get curious about thinking, what did she mean here? And I react and she's like, I just wanted to know where you were, right? And I started.
Where are you today? Like,
Yes.
how are you today?
Exactly.
What place are you in?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It could mean that too. That's right. We have to be curious instead of jumping to conclusions, especially with text. That's so good. Yeah.
My dad types in all caps.
He's yelling. That's perfect, Kenyon. That is perfect. He's yelling at me. No, it's just all caps so he can read it. That's a great one. That is so funny. All caps does feel like you're being attacked. That's so funny. That's awesome. Okay, what else does do no harm mean to you? How will you apply this? Anything else coming to mind?
Don't be mean to yourself.
Yes, perfect. I was hoping somebody would flip into self-compassion there. Yes, do no harm to yourself. Yeah. So like Susan's example of could I just be present and not worried about all the details, pausing and being like, why am I doing this to myself? Right? A lot of what we do is harmful to ourselves. It's our form of self-harm, perfectionism, inner critic, overly caring about all the details, not letting yourself off the hook, not handling a mistake well. That is all our version of self-harm. It really is.
And it makes it not so great for those around you.
Exactly.
I mean, it doesn't really matter how beautiful your table is if everybody is
Right.
feeling beaten down in the process.
100%, Susan. That is profound, right? Like we need to sit with that comment because that is a very good, truthful comment right there that if you are more gentle with yourself, you are more compassionate with other people. That has been studied for over 20 years and proven. And if we are so concerned with making it all perfect that we turn into the worst version of ourselves, we have stolen the holiday joy from everybody around us. Yeah, it's really important to kind of realize that impact.
I actually read an Advent story one time in it had little short stories in it. It was an Advent book. And it was that very thing, and it ties in tradition and being present and, the list. And it was a mom and her 3 kids and the dad, and they always made a gingerbread house every year, decorated it together, and it was snowing outside a lot. And the kids wanted to go out and play in the snow, and she's like, we've got to get this done. And so they were not behaving, so she just finally dismissed them and thought, I'll just do this myself. She saw them with Dad out playing in the snow, and she said, what's wrong with this picture?
Yes.
And let it go, and went out and spent the rest of the afternoon playing in the snow, making snowman and sledding.
That's a great story.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's the point. Yep. Very good. Yeah, so think about not harming yourself, not stealing your own joy, right? We're really good at stealing our own joy. Don't steal your own joy this year. See what you notice if you have that intention. Okay, so here come the tools. All right, so 3 things to kind of, and we're going to practice with these. 3 ideas for tools. Observe without judgment. So this is, I see that, I'm not going to judge that. Okay? So I notice, I hear that comment, I observe what you said, I'm not going to judge it. Observe without judgment first came to me as a tool in a yoga class because the yoga teacher said it when she must have seen the look on my face of self-hatred when everybody else was touching their toes and I couldn't. Because she goes, remember, observe without judgment. And she's like looking right at me. And she's like, just notice what you can do, but don't judge what you can do. And I'm like, really? That's a thing? Like observe something and not judge it? So it became like a practice to me. And I realized, oh my gosh, I am judging everything, right? The slow line, the checkout clerk that can't do 2 things at once, the whatever I am observing, I'm also judging. So let's just observe it and stop ourselves before the judgment of it, right? So I can observe I'm not touching my toes. That doesn't mean anything about me, right? Okay, yes, so observe without judgment is 1. Everything is neutral until I label it good or bad, right? This one, if you've been in like my online class that we do with Compassion Fix Community, I talk about this one a lot because I will just notice we are just judging things as good or bad all the time. And so sometimes I'll be like, remember neutral. So an example of this is like it's rain. Let's say it's a rainy day. The rain is coming down, whether I let it ruin my day or I think it's glorious. The rain is neutral. Rain is neutral. I'm labeling it good or bad. And the mind-blowing thing is everything is neutral. And some of you are going to say, no, it's not. There's truth, there's Bible, there's all these things, right? We could have an offline on that, but everything really is neutral. Somebody has told us it was good or bad. Yeah. But really, everything can go back to a neutral before we label it. So work with your brain on this one. This one takes a little bit of stretching to kind of massage it a little bit because our alarms go off. But really, I'm labeling it good or bad. So if you realize that, it helps you be less judgy. And then fact versus stories is one of my favorites. The cookies are burned. Okay, that's a fact. I left them in the oven too long. Fact. Story, I'm giving you an answer on here, I think. Story is that I can't do anything right. I'm horrible. This ruins everything. I wasted the money on the ingredients. I'm disorganized. I'm horrible. Everyone's going to have a miserable Christmas. That's all stories. The fact was we just left them in the oven too long. Right? So stop with the facts. Don't add the story of what it means about you or about somebody else. Okay, let's practice. So Johnny has green hair at Christmas. How festive. Exactly. Yes. How would you apply one of these tools to John when you're like, Johnny just walked in with green hair? What are you going to say?
He's exploring his identity.
Yeah.
What he thinks
Yeah.
he looks good
Yeah.
with.
Yeah. And it's in your Christmas family picture forever. How do you feel about that?
So sometimes the difficult thing about that is not how you
Mm-hmm.
story that, but dealing with those around you who you have to deal with, who are giving it a story.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's work with that. So let's say your mother is just raging about Johnny's green hair.
Exactly.
Okay, that's a fact. But are we putting a story around her now? Are we judging her judging?
But what if you want to protect Johnny?
Exactly.
Coming at him or making snide remarks even to him.
Yep. Can Johnny handle it? Maybe Johnny can handle it. What if Johnny's stronger than we think Johnny is? What if Johnny loves it? He loves to stir the pot.
Like
Yeah.
attention.
Likes the attention. Yes, Stephanie?
I find I do this when I am around someone who has tattooed their entire arms.
Yes.
And maybe then it's starting to go down there. And
Yes.
I start going, why did they do that permanently to themselves?
Yes.
It's my own judgment. I'm
Yes.
like, well, you know, it is what it is.
Let them.
They did.
Yes.
I mean, yeah, it's hard to unsee.
You've got it. Thank you for sharing that. You're so generous in sharing these because we all have our version of that. That is something I have defined as good or bad. But a tattoo is neutral. I'm defining it good or bad, right? Green hair is neutral. Mom's defining it as good or bad. Okay, Lily took a gap year. She dropped out of college. How do we feel about this one?
Wouldn't you rather they dropped out of college and figured out what they wanted to do than to keep spending your money?
Yep.
And not having any interest in getting in trouble in school.
Yep.
You know, so like just let them
Exactly.
go figure out what they want to do and
That's
then I'll
right.
pay for it.
Dropping out of college is neutral. Exactly. It's a fact. There's no story there. We might put a story of, oh, she's never going to have a job. She's going to live in my basement forever. She's lost. What will my friends think? Their children are all at Harvard and Yale, and mine's on a gap year, right? Like, that's all.
She need to take the happiness course because she's living it.
Exactly.
They're having to pay money.
Exactly.
Have a professor tell them.
You got it. So
And
observe.
work, and they're learning like great opportunities. for
Exactly.
learning that they'll never get when they're older and they didn't get that opportunity.
That's right.
So, you know,
Beautiful. See how these tools help a little bit?
Light bulb just went off in
Okay.
my head because the first place I went to when you said gap year was, what are my friends whose kids are like 4.0s and
Yeah.
graduating gonna think?
Exactly.
I think I'm thinking too much about what other people think.
Beautiful, Kim. Oh man, that light bulb is powerful. Yeah, we live our lives caring. We care more. So let's use Lily. I care more about what my friends think about Lily than I do Lily. I've realized that
All
too.
that matters is Lily.
Exactly. You got it. Ooh, I got to chill on that. We're getting it in the room. That's good. Yep, Barbara.
If they're your true friend,
Yep,
then a true friend wouldn't judge
that's
you
right.
or judge Lily.
That's right.
They would accept you and Lily for
That's right.
taking a gap year.
Exactly. We're going to observe without judging. She took a gap year. Observe. Do you see how we start the judgment reel so quickly, right? Or the worry wheel about what it means. It's all the story we put on things. What will they think?
So how do you avoid the story, though? I'm going back to Johnny with his green
Yep.
hair and Lily. How do you avoid the story that my judgy friends
Yep.
are going to make them feel somehow less than for those choices? How
Yep.
do you try to protect them from or equip them to deal with people who are going to make comment? I mean, you
Yep.
just have to hope that those are choices they're confident in and they don't care. But
That's right.
And maybe that's the younger generation, but I think everybody in this room has a pretty, I would guess, also we're all female, a pretty high degree of, it does kind of matter to me what other people say about some things. And what if, I'm assuming Johnny is young, I don't know why. Because if he's,
I hope he's 80, really. With green hair.
Somehow we would admire that.
Okay, that's another interesting point here. Yeah.
too, but if
Right. We just made it okay. Yeah.
how do you on from orange? Especially if you're the parent of out about, oh my gosh, what if people come at them with
Yeah.
negativity for those
Yeah.
choices?
Exactly.
That's scary.
Yep. So we aren't here, we can't protect everybody.
Yeah.
They are resilient and they are learning a life lesson. We love them. The power of love has to overrule there. So our job is I will love you unconditionally. The world has conditions maybe, but your love, you and I, no conditions here. And you just keep reiterating that.
Yeah.
It's really all we can do.
I just wonder too, like if it's
yeah.
like a spin the narrative, like you mentioned confidence, and like both Johnny and Lily would have
Yes.
to have some level of confidence to show up in this world with green hair.
Yeah.
Especially in a family if that's not the norm,
Yeah.
or to leave school rather than just put your head down and keep going and struggling through.
Yep.
So even if talking to people, it's
Yep.
like, you know, well, we're just really proud of her for making the decision.
That's
I'll
right.
let
You
them
know,
hear
to
you say that,
explore.
yeah.
And let them hear you say that.
know, yeah, like he's really proud of his, just kind of like we do with kids. Like I remember when
Yeah.
my toddler would go out in public in his pajamas and socks
Yes.
and sandals,
Yep.
you know, disheveled, and it's just like, well, he's confident in it, so so be it. You know, who am I to stifle that
Yep.
kind of
And
style?
actually, it's our job to equip them with that confidence.
Exactly.
And
Good.
then also in turn to the judgy friends, it's our job to parse out who are in the safe
Yep.
space that we share these things with and talk about with, and who are the ones that we more or less dismiss.
Exactly.
Because what matters is Lily and Johnny.
Exactly. Perfect.
So, yeah.
Oh, you got it. Yes.
Well,
Lori.
I just think, thinking of Johnny with his green hair, and just from experience, that
Yeah.
if you give it time, eventually that picture
Yeah.
will come back around years later, and Johnny will say, "Why did you love me?"
Oh, yeah.
Green hair. What were you know? It comes
Right.
back.
It
Or thank you for letting me have the green hair.
Right.
Right.
I mean, I
Yeah.
think that
That's right.
Time does.
Time heals.
Heals a lot of
It
that.
does. It does in perspective.
Yes, and getting older, you begin to
Yeah.
realize that.
Yeah. Beautiful. Beautiful hearts in this room. The cookies are overdone. Right? Fine. It's fine. Exactly. But remember that I'm going to come in your kitchen on Christmas Eve and check in with you. Are you really fine with this? Are you really fine with this? So these are the kinds of things where these are just exercises. Somebody changing their pronouns, just observe it. Don't judge it. Don't make a thing over it. Right? Honor who they want to be in that moment. I mean, these are the things where you may encounter, and we're screwing it up. A lot of us are screwing it up, and we're doing a lot of harm. The suicide rate's the highest this year that it's been ever. We got to do better. We've got to do better with this. So observe, don't judge. It's neutral. Pronouns are neutral. We don't have to make it this big thing. We don't have to whisper on the side of the party about it. It's not necessary. Yeah, it just is. We've got to practice compassion and neutrality because lives are at stake.
And don't you think model it for, like, someone was saying, well, then maybe you don't have those judgy friends around, or you,
Yep.
like, I'm dealing a lot with my 8-year-old daughter, so-and-so said this or did that, and I'm trying to honor her feelings, but then also say, well, you can still be friends with that person, but just understand that maybe the reason she said that mean thing to you, or did that mean thing, or ran off from you, or whatever, was that maybe there's something hard for her going on.
Yep.
And just kind of modeling the compassion
Yep.
instead of, I think that does equip the younger ones, and it's a good reminder to me too, that, well, just because someone said something mean to you or made a nasty remark or hurt your feelings, didn't mean they even wanted to hurt your feelings, or maybe they did want to hurt your feelings, but there's probably a reason for that, and that's too bad, but that's not your fault.
Yeah.
That shouldn't be something that you internalize and think less of yourself about because that's an external factor, and if you're okay with your green hair, your pronouns,
Yep.
your burnt cookies,
Yep.
then even if the kids come in and go, Mom, this is gross. Okay, yeah, well,
Yeah.
fine. I did it, and I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
So you're not my problem now.
Yep. We're modeling. Yeah, just model.
I think if you look
a sentence in this person's paragraph.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
So there's all these supporting sentences that go along with it that we're not privy to.
Yes.
So there's a much bigger fact base than what we know.
Which is such a good example, Kenyon, of like people we encounter every day, right? You see somebody that you're judging. There's a whole there's chapters on that person, but I'm judging them for what I see in that sentence, that moment. Yes, that's so good. There's a backstory.
It's sometimes helpful to immediately go when we feel that judgment coming up to empathy,
Yes.
because there must be something
Yep.
in his story, their
Yep.
own story,
Mm-hmm.
that's causing this.
Beautiful.
So
Yep.
it kind of diffuses it
Yep.
when you feel empathetic.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
So real quick story
Yeah.
with that. So my boys are in Boy Scouts and they sold their wreaths and we were delivering them the week of Thanksgiving, and Brady went to someone's store and it was dark, and I was just in the van out in front, and he went to the door and I knew something kind of happened at the door, and then he comes back to the van with the wreath and he said, "Mom, the guy just shooed me away and he doesn't know that his wife bought this wreath. I'm trying to give them the wreath and she's not in there and he's just shooing me." And he goes, "It's like he's the Grinch." And I said, "Okay, well, let's look and see on our sheet here, because you asked for phone numbers." I go, let's look at the phone number and maybe we call the phone number and maybe it's the wife's cell phone, And because I am like all about, I want to get these wreaths. I'm like, I don't want to deal with the wreath tomorrow. The wreath is going somewhere tonight. And so anyway, call the number, get a voicemail, and I just explained this woman's voice, kind of what's happening, and I said, "We're gonna go ahead and just set the wreath on the front porch, and whatever." So and then Brady's really upset when he gets back, and we leave, wreath is done, and I'm telling him, we don't know, maybe this guy is sick, and maybe something else is going on, maybe he's on the phone, maybe he was, and Brady was trying to kind of wrap his mind around that, but he was still like, "I just think he's the Grinch, Mom." And so anyway, this lady calls back like 30 minutes later, and she's like, "Oh my gosh, I am so sorry. I just got your message." And she said, "My husband is at home sick. She's traveling for business. He thinks he has COVID.
Oh.
And so he's not wanting to interact with anyone." And then she said, "I don't know how the men in your life are, but the men in my life, when they get sick, So she said, "There's also that going on."
That's awesome.
And so, she just apologized.
Perfect.
And she said, "You send your son back next year. I will buy a wreath next year. I remember, all this stuff." So it's just, anyway.
That
sorry,
is
long
perfect.
Story, but absolutely was to
Perfect.
this point. And so we've since, of course, talked about it a couple of times, even when we pass the house each day.
It's not the Grinch.
And I'm like, remember, it was just, there were other
Shooing
things.
away.
There were other things going on.
Yes,
He was
that's
Trying to protect Brady from
sick,
getting
he didn't want to give COVID, all this stuff. So
that's a great
so
story.
we need those reminders,
Yes.
right, every now and then, because it's hard to
That's
remind ourselves when we don't have those situations.
That's an awesome story the rest of his
So
life.
much.
Yes, there's more to the story. There's paragraphs.
And when we're frantic during the holidays, it's really easy to be quick to judge.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So,
Yes, exactly. Yes, if you need to leave, do. We're at time. I'm going to go a few more minutes here. So listening is key. These are just quick tips. So stay present. You mentioned it earlier. Right here, right now is just repeat that in your brain. I'm right here, right now. I'm where my body is. I'm where my feet are. Whatever phrase kind of lands with you, but stay in the moment, not worried about tomorrow, next week, 3 years from now. Hear their words. So when somebody's talking, a trick is to repeat to yourself in your head what they just said. Just repeat the sentences in your head. That keeps you engaged. That's just a brain trick, so your brain doesn't wander off to your to-do list. You're just repeating to yourself what they're saying. Validate them. Have some phrases in your pocket, so to speak. that makes sense that you made your hair green. You were brave to take a gap year. That sounds like a hard decision. Have some things ready that validate instead of, oh, well, I thought that, or when I was a kid, I did this, or what, right? Don't validate them, not steal the moment and bring it back to yourself. So have some ready. That makes sense. That's a good thought. Just have some ready, and it's amazing how that helps you if you've got some in your pocket ready to go. Imagine them. So when they're telling you how stressful college is, don't imagine your college experience, right? Picture them on that campus in 2023 in an era of cell phones and comparison and stress and getting their papers in online and the computer crashing, and imagine their current experience. Think about what's it like to be her. So if somebody changes their pronouns, what must it be like to walk in those shoes? Instead of your judgment, go to what is she experiencing? Okay, that's a big one. What's it like to be them? And then wait. I probably shared this one with you before. It's one of my favorites. Why am I talking? And I have that one looping in my brain with teenagers all the time, with my parents sometimes. Like, I'm not going to interrupt. I'm not going to correct. I'm not going to make a point here. Why am I talking? It's usually my ego. I'm just going to listen. Silence is powerful. Silence is love sometimes. And I'm all for using your voice. But I also think sometimes it's that old adage, pick your battles. But I think validating somebody, being the love in the room, being the calm in the room, the peace, doing no harm, that's got to override me needing to make a point or share something I just found out. Okay, the last thing I want to challenge you to is to be curious and see your faith story differently this Christmas. Pay attention to something you haven't paid attention to before with your faith. Do something you haven't done before. Sit in a different spot at the service you always go to. Be curious about switching it up a little bit. Faith should be so evolving every minute of your life. Faith should not become stagnant and tradition and rote, and this is what we always do. Remember we talked last time or the time before about rigidity as mental illness and mental flexibility as mental health. When you find yourself like it has to be this way, that's actually kind of a red flag into mental unhealth. So keep yourself mentally flexible, and faith is so important. We should be emerging, evolving, changing in our walk with God constantly. If we're not, we're doing something wrong. It really should be constantly growing. That's why we refer to the Bible as the living Word of God. It's constantly meaning something different to us. It should. We never have it all figured out. There is no finish line on faith. So just keep stretching it, keep seeing it differently, keep saying, what if? Maybe just picture Mary all Christmas season, or Joseph all Christmas season, or what it's like to be a kid in Nazareth. What must it have been like to be Jesus? Like, pick a character and just spend this season on them. Do something different than you've ever done before. And see if your faith can get reinvigorated a little bit this Christmas season. I think curiosity is a key to growing in your faith, and a key to growing in compassion and love and peace. So be curious. Any questions before we go? Yeah, beautiful conversations and sharing today. Thank you. Such generous sharing. I love this group so much. We've been doing life together, and we'll continue to do life together. We'll be back in February. I've got a couple ideas for February. I'm not sure which one's going to gel yet. But we'll have something juicy and good to talk about in February, too. All right. Yes. Thank you, guys. Thank you, guys.